Ever find something that just feels a bit off? Like finding a smartphone in a dusty old museum exhibit of the Roman Empire.
Right, something that doesn't quite fit the expected pattern.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, today we're digging into a similar kind of head-scratcher from the world of dinosaurs. It involves a fossil hand belonging to a creature called Austrocheirus.
Ah, yes, Austrocheirus. That hand has certainly caused some discussion.
It really has. This apparently simple fossil fragment
hmm
has stirred things up quite a bit, making scientists rethink some established ideas about dinosaur evolution.
Absolutely. And what we have to go on are the scientific papers themselves, the descriptions, the analyses, the debates. These texts trace the whole journey of Austrocheirus.
So that's our source material for this deep dive, the actual scientific back and forth.
Pretty much. These are the core documents paleontologists use. Our mission, really, is to pull out the key facts from these sometimes dense papers and sort of map out the scientific journey for you. Why is this dinosaur so interesting?
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where and when did this puzzling fossil first see the light of day?
Right. The discovery itself goes back to March 17th, 2002.
Okay, 2002. And where was this?
This is in Argentina, down in Patagonia, specifically from the Perry Ake Formation.
Perry Ake Formation. And what time period are we talking about?
We're looking at the very end of the Cretaceous period. Geologically speaking, that formation spans the Campanian to Maastrichtian ages. So really the final act for the non-avian dinosaurs.
Wow. And what exactly did they pull out of the ground? You mentioned the hand, was that it?
Well, the partial manus, technically was definitely the most talked about piece. But no, it wasn't alone. They also found part of a tibia, that's a lower leg bone,
Huh.
some axial bones, parts of the spine, I believe a foot bone fragment as well.
So a few bits and pieces, but the hand stood out. I also noticed the full name, Austrocheirus isasi. Any story behind the isasi part?
Yeah, there usually is. The species name, Isasi, honors Marcelo Pablo Isasi.
Ah, the discoverer.
The discoverer and the preparator, the person who carefully cleaned and stabilized the fossils. It's a really nice tradition in the field, acknowledging that crucial work.
That makes sense. And Austrocheirus itself.
That just means southern hand. Pretty straightforward, really. Austro for southern, referring to South America, and Cheris for hand, highlighting that key find.
Southern hand found by Isorsi.
Got it. Okay, so back in 2010, Ezcurra and the team published their first big analysis. What was their take on this southern hand?
Their initial conclusion placed Austrocheirus within the Abelisauroidea. That's a major group of theropods, famous mostly for members like Carnotaurus with those really tiny arms.
Right, the ones with the notoriously puny arms. So they thought Austrocheirus was one of them.
Sort of. They placed it in a basal position within that group. Think of it like an early offshoot on that branch of the family tree. More derived or advanced than really early forms like Ceratosaurus, but not quite like the later, more famous Abelisaurids.
Okay, so an early member of the club. And was it big? Reasonably so, yeah. They estimated its length around 5.5 to 6.5 meters, maybe 18 to 21 feet, so a decent mid-sized predator for its time.
But here's the kicker, right? The hand itself. Because as you said, Abelisaurids usually mean tiny arms. This hand wasn't tiny.
Exactly. That was the really significant part of their paper. They argued that Austrocheirus, unlike most other known abelisaurids, seemed to have a relatively large, unreduced hand.
Wow.
It was a major point. They proposed it as potentially the first known mid-sized abelisaurid without those characteristic, highly reduced forelimbs.
So that must have been quite a finding. It basically challenged the whole narrative of forelimb evolution within that group.
It definitely did. It suggested the path to those tiny arms might have been, well, more complicated than just a straight line towards reduction across the whole group.
Like finding a member of a family known for being short suddenly turning out quite tall. Did everyone just accept this new picture?
Well, science rarely works like that. A few years later, in 2012, another paleontologist, Oliver Rahut, published a study questioning that abelisaurid classification.
Oh, okay. What was his argument?
Rahut basically argued that the specific features Ezcurra and his team used to link Austrocheirus to the abelisaurids weren't actually unique to that group.
Ah, so those features could be found in other types of theropods too.
That was his point, yes. He suggested those characteristics were more widespread among theropods and therefore couldn't reliably place Austrocheirus specifically within Abelisauridae.
So where did Rahut suggest it belonged instead?
He proposed classifying it more broadly simply as a theropod dinosaur, but with uncertain phylogenetic placement, essentially saying it's a meat-eating dinosaur, but based on this evidence, we can't confidently slot it into the Abelisauridae group.
Hmm. Did he have any other evidence?
He mentioned some other bits from the holotype, the original fossil set, like part of an ulna, that's another forearm bone, a claw from the hand, and a foot bone, a metatarsal. He noted some morphological details and those that, in his view, further complicated a clear assignment to Abelisauridae.
Okay, so more fossil bits adding to the uncertainty, maybe?
Yeah.
What happened there? Was it just left hanging?
Pretty much for a while. Following Rahote's critique, the original authors actually acknowledged the uncertainty. They suggested it might be best to consider Austrocheirus as Incertae Satis, within a larger group called Averostra.
Inserte sati, that means of uncertain placement, right?
Exactly. So it belongs somewhere within Averostra, which includes abelisaurids, but also many other theropods like allosaurs and tyrannosaurs, but its precise spot on the family tree was unclear. The consensus became, we need more fossils to really figure this out.
So Austrocheirus became this kind of enigmatic dinosaur for what, over a decade? Just floating around in uncertainty.
That's a fair way to put it. A bit of a paleontological puzzle piece waiting for more context.
But the story didn't just stop there, did it? Because I see a much more recent development mentioned from just this year, 2024.
That's right. Science keeps moving. In a 2024 paper focusing on redescribing another theropod called Dinosaurus, the authors, Hendricks and colleagues, took another look at Austrocheirus as part of a broader analysis.
Did they solve the puzzle?
Well, they proposed a new solution. Their phylogenetic analysis led them to name a whole new clade, a new group, called Berthosauridae.
Berthosauridae. Okay, that's definitely a new one. Who's in this new family?
According to their findings, this group includes Berthosaura, which is a really interesting, small, toothless theropod from Brazil.
Toothless one.
Yeah. And also Aframimus, known from Africa, and Austrocheirus.
Ah, so they think Austrocheirus belongs with these other, perhaps slightly unusual theropods.
Exactly. And crucially, their analysis placed Berthosauridae outside of Dinosauridae, another group of generally smallish theropods, often linked with abelisaurids, and positioned them as the sister taxon to the Abelisauridae.
Sister taxon. So the closest relatives, but not actually in the Abelisauridae group itself.
Precisely, like siblings on the family tree. Berthosauridae and Abelisauridae would be two distinct branches stemming from a common ancestor, according to this hypothesis.
And we have that cladogram visual here in our sources. It kind of lays it out. You can see the main Ceratosauria line, then some early branches like Berbersaurus, then this new Berthosauridae branch popping up with Austrocheirus inside it, right next to the big Abelisauridae branch that contains the Dinosauridae and the Abelisauridae.
Yeah, the cladogram really helps visualize it. It shows Berthosauridae, including Austrocheirus, splitting off just before the main Abelisauridae irradiation. It's a different picture than the original basal Abelisauridae, and different from Rahote's uncertain theropod.
So the journey's gone from early Abelisaurid with weird hands to mystery theropod, and now potentially member of a sister group to Abelisaurids. It's quite a ride for one fossil hand.
It really is, and it perfectly showcases how science works, doesn't it? New discoveries, new analyses, like this 2024 study, constantly lead us to refine and sometimes completely revise our understanding of the past. It's an ongoing process.
Definitely. So trying to sort of summarize this whole Austrocheirus saga for everyone listening, what are the big takeaways here?
Well, first, I think it really underscores how incredibly important even fragmentary fossils can be. A partial hand and a few bones have sparked years of research and debate and potentially reshaped our view of an entire dinosaur group's evolution.
Yeah, don't underestimate the small finds.
Exactly. Second, it's a fantastic example of scientific classification being dynamic, not static. It's not about finding the final answer right away. It's about proposing hypotheses, testing them, challenging them with new evidence, and refining our understanding. The Austrocheirus story is a perfect illustration of that process in action.
And the hand itself remains intriguing, doesn't it? Even if it's now potentially in this Berthosauridae group, the fact it seems less reduced than its close relatives, the Abelisauroids, is still significant.
Oh, absolutely. That feature, the relatively unspecialized hand, is still a key part of its identity. If this new placement in Berthosauridae holds up, it suggests that the extreme forelimb reductions seen in Abelisaurids happened after the lineage leading to Austrocheirus and its kin branched off. It tells us something important about the timing and pattern of that evolutionary trend.
So the implications of this new Berthosauridae idea are quite broad for understanding how that whole branch of the theropod tree evolved.
For sure. It potentially redraws the relationships near the base of the Abelisauridae, giving us a different perspective on their origins and the evolution of their unique features.
So Austrocheirus, the southern hand, continues to be a really fascinating piece of the puzzle. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? We've learned so much from these few bones found back in 2002, but how much more is still out there, buried in rocks in Argentina or elsewhere? What might the next discovery reveal about Austrocheirus, about Berthosauridae, about the whole incredible story of dinosaur evolution? It's a powerful reminder that the book of the past is still being written one fossil at a time.